Hi, everybody. It's Lindsey Vestal of the Functional Pelvis, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to be talking to my dear friend, Amy Baumgarten, today. She is a holistic movement coach. She has a background in Pilates, yoga, and body-mind centering. And she really encourages nourishing movement practices. Doesn't that sound delightful? I need that right now, Amy.
I think we all do during this time.
Oh man, tell me about it. I mean, I've known you for years, and what I'm thrilled about is that you've kicked off your first online course called Returning to Center. But throughout the time I've known you, you've always focused on the pre and postnatal person. And as you know, at the Functional Pelvis, that's my population as well. It's the population that I love to serve. But I want to hear a little bit from you. Why? Why pre and postnatal people?
Such a good question. I think it's a great way to start because why does anyone do anything? It's important what our motivation is. And I want to say that I'm just so grateful to be talking with you, Lindsey, because you've been so inspiring to me and my evolution through the years. So it's been so helpful to watch you bloom and evolve so that I can just be encouraged and inspired by the other people in this world. And I think women's health and wellness is it's a source of advocacy. It's a form of advocacy that I really relish being a part of. When I came to the work, I thought, wow, it's such a powerful place to be, not just with women, but in the feminine experience of the body. And I mean that in the subtlety and the nuance that comes with checking in with yourself. So we all have both those qualities, masculine and feminine energies. And I noticed that with people who are birthing, that they are really in the thick of that experience. They are dealing with these huge evolution, huge things happening, but also so many things happening on the deeper layers of the body and the soul and the spirit. So for me, it was just a powerful thing to witness and hold space for. Then as I realized over time, as I did more research and worked with people, I realized that people were not being taken care of. Birthing bodies were not being taken care of in the ways that I saw fit, the ways that I was encouraging people to do, taking care of their healing process, then checking in with themselves and really connecting to their movement practice as a source of healing, to me felt like a really empowering place to be after giving birth. And even during pregnancy and before, but I realized so many people didn't know the most basic aspects of women's bodies' health. And so to me, it became a source of advocacy to teach and to educate on those elements.
I couldn't agree more. And, you know, I think in many ways, both of us have dedicated our careers to this. And I think now being able to offer some of these things online has been huge because it can reach more people who don't have access to the type of professionals that really do think of this space as an advocacy space. Right. And now you and I are having this conversation in the middle of COVID. And I think virtual support has taken an even greater step, right, in terms of us being able to connect to ourselves and our nervous systems and to feel whole.
Absolutely. Feeling whole is what it's all about. We all need that. We all need that, the ways in which we feel whole. And I think for me, even even though this is what I do every day, all day, I need guidance. I need the tools. I need someone to say, hey, let me hold space for you while you try it. So the virtual space has been just as potent for creating and connecting to those practices as being in the studio.
Yeah. Well, that's so powerful. That's so beautiful. I want to jump into another question for you, which is, why do we exercise postpartum? Where does the importance lie there? Why does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few reasons that I could just list off, and I will. But I think that number one movement is a language the body uses to help us understand what's going on and to help us connect, right? So I just see it all the time. You know, my husband is so cute. He's a gardener and a musician, and he's working all day, and he's lifting heavy things, and he's on his hands and knees. He's doing intense work, and he'll come home. He'll be like, "I'm fine." I'm like, "Are you sure? Maybe we should like stretch out a little bit, or maybe we should work things out." And it's not until he gets down on the floor and he rolls around or he stretches with me that he goes, "Oh, wow, I didn't realize I had so much tension here, or that my back is actually really sore." And so movement really has this power to help us understand what's going on. Sometimes, you know, we have this amazing ability to shut things down and to kind of lock ourselves up. And movement creates a source of vulnerability that is knowledge, is wisdom, that I think really gives us the power to understand ourselves on a multitude of levels. So with that, postpartum is a time to really reflect on this powerful experience that this person has gone on, whoever has gone on. So of course it's a way to heal. Exercise and movement are a way to heal the body after going through this intense physical experience. But it's also getting down for 10 minutes on your mat, or laying in bed and taking 10 deep breaths. Whatever little chunk of space and time you give yourself is self-care, right? And you're going from being, maybe you already have children, or maybe this is your first child, you're going from being one form of person to a new form of person. And giving yourself time to reflect and connect into who you are in this moment, being present with yourself, goes a long way. Even those 5 minutes can go such a long way into helping you integrate the experience. And integration, for me, I talk about this in the course, is about absorbing new information and having it not just hang out on the outside of your body like, "Oh my God, I did this thing and now it's going to be in my shoulders for the rest of my life." No, it's going to integrate through you into your center and back out into the world again as you're able to absorb it and have it be a part of you. So that's, to me, that's why we exercise. That's why we move. And exercise is, to me, it's not just, 10 of these, 10 of those, just get them done. It's really a way to help you understand what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, a form of meditation, right? Because one of the ways we can talk about meditation is waking up the senses, right? So tasting what you taste, seeing what you see, smelling what you smell, feeling what you're feeling. And I think that for many of us, movement is a moving meditation where we're waking up to those senses. We're feeling things that, like your husband didn't realize he was gripping his traps and his shoulders while he was gardening, and being able to go, wait a second, okay, I have another option. I have another choice for my shoulder to be somewhere else, which may mean it feels better now when I reach for that glass of water in front of me, right? So it's investigating, learning, and being at ease with a nervous system component, which is always a good place to be, a better place to be.
Always a good place. Otherwise, we're just being reactive to what happened, to the body's response. And instead, there's like this new relationship to the outside world and to the internal world.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, Amy, for you, what does postpartum exercise movement look like?
It looks a lot different than regular exercise, as you know. And there's a lot of programs out there that talk about different ways to target the different parts of the body after giving birth. For me, it's still a whole picture kind of thing. It's global as opposed to local. In my course, we talk about what the deep core is, right? The deep center of the body, and that's the area that's been most disturbed by growing a baby and birthing a baby. But beyond that, I also talk about in the course how the upper body relates to the core and how the lower body relates to the core. So all of our movement is really all just one whole movement. Mm-hmm. So in terms of what it looks like, the most basic that it looks like is that it begins with the breath. So I tell a lot of my students and clients who are really early in their postpartum days and weeks, just breathe. Your self-care. And then as you get stronger, as you heal more, you're still breathing. That's still the most important aspect of your movement, but we layer, because movement doesn't have to be this or that. For me, it's layering on top of what you've already done, or what's your foundation. So a lot of people who have birthed really lose touch with their deep breath. It feels really rigid and tight. I see that so much that it's really hard to get that deep breath down in the belly. So that's where we begin. Moving forward, the breath is the beginning of all movement. I say that over and over again. The breath begins and ends all movement. It's the beginning of life. It's the end of life. So why would it not be part of our movement? It is. It's low impact, especially again in that I like to say the first year, but maybe it's the first 6 months. It depends on where you were before giving birth, right? So how you were exercising or moving your body before you got pregnant, then maybe during your pregnancy, how things went, will all determine how you feel and how connected you are already postpartum. So it depends, and I don't ever like to say, oh, you should be this place by 3 months or by 6 months postpartum. It's really an ongoing journey, and 2 steps back, 1 step forward might be a thing, because things are not always linear.
Yeah.
And I know that even my own
time.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. But those fundamentals, breath beginning, staying low impact is really important to the deep core, not putting a lot of pressure on your body right in the early stages of healing, because I talk about it a lot like a half-baked cake, right? If the center is mushy, but the outside looks all nice and perfect, it's not necessarily going to be that delicious. It might look good. So we don't want to like keep that mushiness and then pack on impact. So running and high impact exercise, I really suggest not doing early on in those stages. And that can come back over time, but it's still part of a gradual progression. And then again, as I mentioned, deep core is the fundamental understanding for me of postpartum exercise. If you get to integrate your center, and you and I talk about this a lot, not just your abdominals, but the deep core being your breathing, your pelvic floor, your deep core and your spinal muscles, when they're all really acting as one unit.
Yeah. Right.
And that in and of itself is a lot of work to figure out how they all act as one. So that is the focus for me of postpartum exercise. That's what it looks like.
Amy, I just love that. Everything you said resonates so much with me and with our philosophy at the Functional Pelvis. So thank you for doing what you're doing. I would love to see some exercises. Would you mind?
Oh my God, I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'm going to tip the camera down a little bit so you can see the mat.
Excellent.
Sit back a little bit. So I was talking about breathing as the initial point for connecting to your movement. So one thing that I love working with is helping people get back their deep breath. So when a lot of times, and we can all kind of try this on our own, is can you breathe down into your belly? And I see this a lot where we breathe more into the chest and kind of spread open the front body, because of course after pregnancy for 9-10 months, your body has been expanding this way. So it's hard not to do that already. But bringing your hands onto your belly, just take a moment to notice if you can feel that expansion in the belly when you inhale, and that kind of emptying or condensing as you exhale. And if you don't feel that, that's perfectly acceptable. But that's what we're trying to find. So if you can't find it, I have this fun, what I think is fun exercise. Some of my students always say, your idea of fun, Amy. But being a movement geek, that's what you get. So you're going to bring your hands onto your rib cage. Even if you did feel your breath down here, this is just a really nice one to help stretch out your diaphragm. So try to breathe into your hands. My thumbs are wrapped around the back and then my fingers are wrapped around the front. So I'm holding the edges, the sides of my ribs. I'm going to breathe wide into the hands. And then exhale, just let that go. So you'll feel that the ribs condense naturally. They'll come together. Same thing that happens with the belly if you can breathe down there. Try that one more time. So you're really stretching the intercostal muscles between each of the ribs. So when you're breathing like this, we're getting the movement between the ribs. So if these are my ribs, I'm spreading them and narrowing them, which is really a nice stretch for them. However, if we want to get to the diaphragm muscle, the diaphragm is our breathing muscle, and it's allowing us to get down to that yummy belly breathing. I do have a picture, so I'll show you this beautiful image of the diaphragm.
Love that.
Right, it looks like a parachute inside the rib cage, and it moves kind of like that, like a jellyfish. So if we're going to access the diaphragm, we're not only going to breathe from the ribs. So we're going to work on isolating the diaphragm. We're going to breathe the same way on the inhale, widening those ribs. And then on your exhale, try to keep widening your ribs, but breathe out. Don't let those intercostal muscles come together. If you don't let the ribs come together, then it's a lot harder to exhale. But your diaphragm is doming up, it's pushing the air out, and your intercostal muscles are taking a break. And then at the very end, when you have no more air, just let the ribs drop. And you can take a normal breath. Maybe you feel a little more expansion in the ribs.
Yeah, I do.
We'll try it one more time just to really hit home with it. Inhale, wide ribs. Then hold those ribs nice and wide and try to exhale without letting the ribs close. And when there's no more air and you have no way to push it out, just relax those ribs and take a normal breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that might help you get a little lower into the body. I'm sure you see that a lot too with your in your practice, that it's so hard to get down into the abdomen.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's so easy to get into it that they're sort of bypassing the three-dimensionality of that torso. So where you had us put our hands, it's kind of just going straight to the belly and bypassing the torso, all those intercostals, right? So I think your exercise that you just led us through could help either camp, because what you're doing is really reintegrating that diaphragm, pelvic floor. I call it sometimes like a French press, right? It's like you're able to get those guys talking again and communicating again, which is, like you said, the first step towards returning to center.
Exactly. Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
That's great. Do you have anything else you'd like to show us?
I'll show you one more. This is maybe it's a little more advanced, but if you've done this one where you're breathing into the ribs and you're able to connect down into the belly, you might find some relationship between the belly expanding on the inhale and the belly condensing on the exhale. And we take it one step further with this exercise.
Right.
So you'll come to hands and knees. And sometimes wrists are tender, especially if you're a new mom, so you can always come down to forearms. Or another option sometimes is just to have your hands on some furniture. Right. Or this is not actually the right, like if I have my hands on my bookshelf here. I have my spine is not at a parallel angle with the floor, but I'm still tipped forward, so you don't have to be fully on your wrists. But wherever you land, you're going to try to just keep lengthening your spine, which is always a good practice. I know that you talk so much about posture, which is key. And then this one uses gravity. So I'm going to breathe wide into the belly and let it release toward the floor. For some people, this feels really good. Some people, it feels really like, it's not supportive enough. Yeah. But you can kind of moderate how far you expand the belly. And then we're gonna activate the breath to pull the abdomen back up against gravity, moving toward the spine. So I don't know if you can see my abdomen, but the inhale, then the exhale.
Yeah, we can see it beautifully.
Right, and then a lot of times we wanna do the belly movement from the back, which is normal. But can you really, I imagine wrapping a ribbon around a tree trunk. So I'm just imagining that ribbon, someone's tying a ribbon around my waist, that tree doesn't move, right? I don't have to exhibit any force on my spine. So you can do several rounds of that inhale, exhale, 5, 6. Doesn't have to be, I won't even say 10, because I think that can be a lot, just doing in and out 5 or 6 times at any given time really wakes up the transverse abdominal layer. So that's the layer of muscle that wraps around the belly, wraps around the spine, excuse me. And it kind of looks like a corset. It connects your pelvis to your ribs. It's really the whole waistline and beyond. And by activating it inward, you're really helping address some of the expansive forces that were moving your belly outward for so long during pregnancy. So it's reconnecting your center.
Oh, I love that. Oh, thank you so much. I'm going to try that when we hang up, because I wasn't able to get on all fours with where I'm set up here, but I'm going to do it.
Great. And those both are on my course. And I know that you have a course coming up all focused on the pelvic floor, which I'm so excited about. So this material works really well with, I'm sure, what your course is offering, all relating to pelvic floor and deep core.
Yeah. I think that my course kind of came out from this idea that I wanted people to have a way to figure out what was going on in their pelvic floor without having to go to a professional. So maybe they didn't have access to one somewhere near them. Maybe it was a question of finances, whatever the case may be. We actually have this ability to be the detectives of our own body, right? To really figure out what's happening on a deep level, and then being able to recognize how habits and maybe some of our subconscious movements are contributing and could actually help heal us, right? So it's a little bit of like what you talked about earlier about becoming aware of maybe some things that we were a little desensitized to or weren't really giving pause to understand. And I think the pelvic floor falls into that category for a lot of us. We never really take the time to understand it. It's a very taboo topic. It's a topic that just a lot of its responsibility happens behind closed doors. So we never really stop to find out what's optimal for it. So anyway, the course that I've come up with, it's called Kegels That Work, a workshop for women who want to stop guessing and start taking back control, is all about being the detective of your own body and figuring out those things. And a really basic idea that I go into as well is how everyday life is an opportunity to connect and heal. So you mentioned I talk a lot about posture. You know me very well. In the course, I talk a little bit about ideal sitting posture. It's something that we find ourselves in a lot. And so it's important to kind of know the impact of sitting well and how it can really help us, even something as basic as what you touched on, which is breathing, right? The sort of a foundation of a calm nervous system, a foundation to connecting to our inner core muscles. And when we are sitting in a really kind of easy stacked position, we can breathe better, right? We can breathe better. We can find that coffee press connection between the diaphragm and the pelvic floor. Amy, I have had so much fun. Every time we get together, I learn so much. I just love what you're bringing out into the world. And I'm just really appreciative of the simple way that you help us understand that we all have this profound ability to feel whole and to feel connected to ourselves again.
Thank you so much, Lindsey. You have been an amazing teacher, confidant, colleague. So I just want to honor all that you're doing in the world right now too. And I'm glad to be fighting the good fight next to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Any last parting words before we leave our conversation today?
Yeah, I just want to encourage anybody who's listening, whether you've had a baby, whether you're a parent, whether you're not, just to take a few minutes a day to breathe, to take a moment to check in with yourself. It's such a powerful practice. And I know it's helped me a lot, especially the last 6 weeks or so, as things have rolled into quarantine and into crisis mode. It really helps my nervous system calm. Getting that breath all the way through the body can be so potent. So I hope that you enjoy it and you can practice as often as you can.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
So much love. Over to you on the other side of the ocean.
Right back at you, love.